Hi singers, I'm so excited to jump into the squeeze out exercise with you tonight. This is an exercise I've been using for years to demonstrate the basic directionality and cycle of the breath. So this principle that the breath needs to be engaged on the out, which means engaged and supported on the either exhalation or the singing part, that's when the breath is moving out of your body, and then to be released on the inhalation when the breath is moving into your body. This is a really challenging concept for beginning voice students to grasp, and I have met any number of even very experienced singers who are doing it the reverse way. So there are a lot of reasons why this might be challenging. I think that there are physical reasons, and then there's also just sort of the cognitive grasp of why this might work. So let's talk first about the basic idea. I want you to picture a person, a cartoon person, breathing. So think of in a cartoon, when our hero goes to breathe, it'll be a very effortful, sucked in inhalation. And then a relaxed exhalation, right? So, and this feeling of being kind of full to bursting is what many of us think of as a big breath, right? So try that with me if you haven't been already going along with me. Try it here. We're gonna just suck in as much air as we can hold, a really big breath, and then we'll let it out. So here we go, suck it in. Let it out. So singers who are used to breathing this way will often come to me and they're frustrated because they feel like they have no support. Well, your muscles cannot support you on that type of exhalation or out breath or singing on the out breath if those muscles are just flopping because they have just been put into this state of very high tension. So we need to actually flip the cycle so that the engaged, the muscularly supported portion of the breath cycle is the outgoing breath. So we're gonna go ahead and move into the exercise, and then once we do it a couple of times, I'm gonna bring up a couple of reasons why it might be a little bit challenging for some bodies and suggest some ideas that might make it easier for you to feel. So at this point, just start out by getting your alignment kind of nice and lifted. You can always jump over to the Novel Lift video if you want a quick 30-second way to lift that posture up. And what we're going to start by doing is actually breathing out. So let me explain first before you start doing with me, otherwise you'll be just waiting to take an inhalation forever. I'm going to ask you to blow your air out and go all the way to empty. So this is not a case of trying to make your breath last as long as you can. Don't be a hero. I just want you to get all the breath out in a whoosh as quickly as you can. And then when you are empty, you're gonna wait, let's say for 4 seconds before you let the breath come back in. When it's time to let the breath come back in, I want you to just open the throat and relax the muscles of the low belly, okay? So the cycle is gonna be, we're gonna blow everything out. When we're empty, we'll wait for 4 seconds, and then we're going to open the throat and soften the muscles of the belly and just let the air come back in, all right? So let's try this together here. Ready? Blow out. Okay, I'm empty. I'm gonna wait. And now release. Okay, terrific. Let's do that again. Ready? Blow out. Release. Okay, now before we go into some ways that we can really finesse this and make it even better, even more supportive of your singing, let's talk a little bit about what you have hopefully experienced, and then if you didn't experience it, let's talk about maybe why that might be happening. What I'm hoping that you experienced here is a sensation that the throat was open, that inhalation was an absolutely automatic and natural reaction of your body to no longer waiting to get the breath in, and that you also felt, hopefully, with the relaxation of these muscles of the lower belly, a real plop in the gut. So a real feeling that the muscles, the guts, the organs inside that have been sort of held up and drawn in as you blew all your air out, that they have now just let gravity take them and just plopped down to the bottom of where your legs are attached, basically. They kind of are as close as they can get to falling through the floor of your body. So this is what I'm hoping that you felt was kind of a real kind of gathering together of the muscles down here. If you've ever done the sponge breath exercise with me, you know that I talk about imagining you've got a sponge here and that you're squeezing the sponge. There really should be a strong feeling here for this exercise of really tight engagement in these lower belly muscles. And then when it's time to release, a really open release in the throat and a release here in these low belly muscles. Something that you might have also observed, if this did work for you, if it felt good, you might have also noticed that the breath comes in really fast. I mean, instantaneously. It doesn't take any longer to take in a breath this way than it would take to just drop an apple to the floor, because we're just popping open, right? Now, for some of you, you might be thinking, yes, show me the detail work. Let's move to the next level. I want to do this forever. It feels so good. And then for some of you, you're probably scratching your heads and thinking, I didn't feel any of this stuff. No drop, no plop. And for those of you who are experiencing that, let's talk about why that might be happening a little bit. So first, I think something that is really, really common among people nowadays is that we really are never allowed to release the muscles of the lower belly. So we sort of walk around trying to look as slender as possible. It's really, there's a really strong societal pressure to not let the gut hang out. I think something that is really important to do here is to just get to the task at hand, get into the function of what you're trying to do, and try and sort of release that programming by just working on this task of, I am going to release these muscles, not let my gut hang out, but just release the muscles of the low belly so that my breath can come into my body. So that kind of social programming is really hard to break, especially if you've been walking around with your belly sucked in for 35 years. I don't know. I think that's very possible, and it's really challenging to break that cycle. So if that is you, let's try something quick. Just put the hands on this low part of the belly, and I want you to imagine that you have been chased by a bear through the woods, and you finally shut the door behind you, gotten home, and now we're just gonna pant. And let it flop. Is it a little squishier? In my body, it's nice and squishy. It feels great, very ready to receive breath. Now, another reason that it might be very hard for these muscles to release are if they are doing some really important work in keeping your body upright. And this could happen if you have any kind of health condition, prior physical trauma, imbalance that is causing your body to be slightly less able to just balance on the bones in a totally even way. So I'm talking about if you've had problem with either hip joint, if you have problems with your knees, with your feet, if your back is, if you have some kind of spinal issue, it is really difficult if your muscles, especially the muscles of the core, which bear so much responsibility for keeping you upright, if they are spending all your life just trying to compensate for some kind of skeletal imbalance, then of course, it's going to be very difficult to coerce them into releasing here. And to be honest, there may be a limited amount of range of motion that's even possible there without making them come away from that job that they're doing. And in that case, it's really important to just say, thank you for holding me upright. You're doing great work, and we're going to do as much as we can to also support the work of singing. But really be gentle with yourself and understand that everybody has a history. It doesn't matter if you're 3 years old or 80 years old. And so just, be very, very kind in considering what might be going on with your body. And then finally, I think there is one other component which is really common, and this is postural. So for a lot of people, I showed you when I was doing the knob lift video that I have a tendency to Lift up, 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 and then go way beyond into like a totally like sway backed position. And what you can imagine here is I want you to try with me a really exaggerated sway back, okay? So really stick out the tush. And in this position, what you can imagine is that the muscular insertions, so where the muscles actually connect to bones in this huge muscular wall here, up at the ribs and then down somewhere to some bone down here, pelvis. If you are pulling those really far apart by standing in a sway backed position, so this is really extreme for demonstration, but you can imagine even if you just kind of stand like this in daily life, what's happening is those muscles are in this very distended position. And when they are stretched end to end like that, it is very difficult for them to release. So try this with me. Really sway the back and then try to release those muscles. I can get a little bit, but it is nothing like what I feel when I'm really aligned and I'm able to just get a lot of play in those muscles. So if you need to take a second here to posturally realign, lift the back of the skull and then really think, are the bottom of the ribs kind of splaying or flaring out? And a great way to sort of correct this is to just think about the pelvis itself. Imagine it like a bowl. And imagine, are you pouring your water out forward? Are you, or are you kind of sunk down into it? See if you can get that pelvic bowl to just be nice and level so that the water stays inside. Line yourself up and let's try this exercise again. So let's see if any of these things, maybe that panting, loosening exercise, maybe this realignment of the pelvis and therefore also the base of the ribs is kind of helping you to give you more of a straight shot into those plopping organs. And let's give this a try here. So again here, let's blow out. Wait. Release here and here, go. All right, beautiful. Another thing that I forgot to mention earlier is you also might notice that this breath is much quieter than your usual quick breath. So oftentimes I will hear with folks who are having a hard time letting their inhalation be released, they do what I think of as the reanimating corpse breath. So that breath not only is very drying for the larynx, but it's also so slow. It just doesn't function in singing if you have a 16th note rest. So let's just kind of get away from the reanimating corpse, get into the squeeze out breath, this nice dropped ploppy breath. And now let's see if we can add a few little details here. So we're gonna keep going with this same cycle, and you can, if you want to, you can sort of lengthen the amount of time that you're waiting, but be aware that that sort of holding the breath out is not something that is realistically going to happen in music, and it's not desirable for you to interrupt the cycle in that way. It's purely a demonstration that you are doing for your own body to show your body, here's the drop I want you to feel when I ask you to inhale during a piece of music. So I wouldn't encourage you to really extend that holding out period for too long. Okay, so let's do this again, and I'm going to indicate some additional places for you to release. So we're going to start out with just our plain release in the low belly, and of course in the muscles of the throat, a nice open pipe there. So let's start by blowing out. Air is going up as it goes out. Wait. Release and release here. Good. Up and out again. Engage those muscles. This time, we're gonna release in the throat, the belly, and the pelvic floor. And go. Even lower for some of you maybe, that's great. One more time, up and out. This time, we're gonna relax in the throat, the pelvic floor, and the back between the shoulder blades. And go. Okay, oh, I love that one. As soon as we add that back release, I start to really feel that the breath is coming in 360 all the way around the body. Now, because all of our bodies are different, you're gonna feel this in different spots. Some of you are really gonna feel a vertical drop. Some of you are gonna feel also a little bit of lift in the ribs, kind of like an umbrella opening. Some of you are gonna feel that the back is kind of opening up, like louvers. These are all wonderful things. I want to emphasize that although in my body, because of the history of my body, I do tend to get a fair amount of drop, and also my belly does tend to come forward or come out. But the idea of like a pushed out, distended belly is not the aim here. That is just kind of one possible way that your body can reshape itself with breath, but that's not the direct aim. So thank you for listening to all this breath talk. I think it's really a wonderful exercise to get your breath headed in the right direction. And let's do it one more time together before we close out. All right, ready? Blow out. Wait. And we're gonna relax our everything except the posture. Go. And with that, I will leave you. Thanks for practicing.